Right, so today I wanted to kind of go a little bit further into this, thing of hypocrisy that exists in the world these days. And, you know, in one sense, it's kind of pointless to bring up because the way that the system is designed, anyone with half a brain, I think, would recognize that it's going to happen and it's going to happen on a large scale. But on the other hand, I think that there's a lot of people out there who don't recognize it. So that's kind of why I bring it up. Like, in reality, it's kind of pointless to bring up, like I said, because the way that the way that modern society is set up, it's basically set up so, I mean, in an essence, that certain rules only apply to certain people. Again, the vast majority of people are taught growing up that running a society where different sets of rules apply to different people is a great thing, right? It's a great thing, all this stuff. It's just absolute garbage, if you ask me. But um, Gina Carano was um, basically dropped from, basically her acting career is probably over, it looks like at this point, for basically, I think she was comparing the lockdowns to World War II Germany. And again, that's not allowed these days, but um, Disney films movies, right next to internment camps in China, and again, that's perfectly fine. Again, the same thing goes for like the NBA, right? The NBA will, you know, have all these, memorials, and all the guys will take knees and all this stuff over, you know, lies, basically. George Floyd was not murdered by that cop, at least given the knowledge we have right now, I would acknowledge, right? Because the medical examiner said, yeah, he had twice a lethal level of fentanyl in his system at the time. Not to mention too the knee on the neck maneuver had been approved by the police department, right? So again, like same thing goes for Jacob Blake too. Like Jacob Blake was wanted for sexual assault and domestic abuse, and he showed up to his victim's house with a knife, right? That it's very, very, odd how when you talk to people, they leave those details out. Like, you would think that those details would be important to tell someone, right? Because it's just a little bit of context that you'd think would be included. But again, people don't care because they want to push their narrative, right? And that's, like I said, that's the world we live in, right? That's the world we live in, unfortunately. But you know there is a lot of people pushing back, not enough people. um, but again, like at the end of the day, I think, what can people do to push back against this stuff? Like, I mean, for starters, stop supporting people that support this stuff. I think that that's pretty much the biggest thing you need to do. And number two, support people who are calling it out, right? That's pretty much the only thing you need to do, right? And a lot of this stuff, it doesn't even require that much effort, right? It really, like, does doing a lot of this stuff, it doesn't require that much effort, right? Like, it would be one thing if I said, yeah, you gotta volunteer 20 or 30 hours a week to know. Like, it doesn't even require a lot of effort. Just, I don't know, don't watch movies that have these people in them. um don't support sports when they're doing this garbage, at least to a large degree, right? Like, and again, like, I think another big thing too is that when people bring this kind of stuff up too, like, don't be afraid to speak out too. Like, I think that that's something that pretty much everyone suffers with that's actually awake these days when it comes to their, brainwashed friends or relatives. But the thing that I've noticed is that, number one, it's never as bad as what you think, and number two, even if it is, like, did you lose anything? Like, did you really lose anything of value? Like, your whoever it is hates you because you disagree with them politically, but they're going to hate you anyway, right? Like, you can either have that feeling of constantly having to bite your tongue, or you can have someone hate you because you have actual political beliefs grounded in reality. Like, you really got to pick your poison. Either way, there's no ideal circumstance, right? um, but in my view, again, I think you're better off to actually be honest with people and live with the consequences of that. Because again, if people are going to hate on you for being honest, then that speaks more to them than it does to you, right? So again, that's what I would bring up as far as that goes. But um again, the hypocrisy of the world these days, it really knows no bounds. And again, what enables it? Well, there's a lot of things that enable it. We, like I said before, is that we have a system. We teach kids that a system where different sets of rules apply differently to different people, right? Like in many ways, right? Um, again, the list is absolutely endless. But again, like stuff off the top of my head, like if the government wants to print money, then it's all hunky dory. But again, if you print money, it's counterfeiting, right? If the government taxes people, if the government wants to tax people, then that's perfectly fine. The government can steal money from people, but if you want to take money from people, then no, that's not allowed. Like even if you want to argue from the we got to help the poor narrative, okay, well if a poor person steals something from a store so they can eat, then no, that's still illegal. But if the government steals from someone else so they can give the poor person money to buy food, then that's okay. Again, like why does there need to be a middleman? Again, like there's so many examples of this. It's not even funny. And then not to mention too, I mean, look at the George Floyd, look at Jacob Blake, all this kind of stuff, right? These are things that shouldn't even have been local news, right? They may be local news, but it should have been something that got brought up for 30 seconds to a minute, um, on a local news outlet. That's it, right? But no, because people want to push this false, complete myth that, blacks are discriminated against. And again, I'm not saying there's no discrimination. I'm simply saying there's no data that shows that they're disproportionately discriminated against. And again, people would come back with, oh, they're a higher percent of the prison population. Well, again, it doesn't matter. Men men are significantly disproportionately more in prison than women are, as compared to blacks to whites. So again, like, are you willing to argue that the system's more sexist against men than women? Well, it actually is to some degree, right? But people know that men are more likely to commit crime, right? And it's the same thing when it goes from blacks to whites. Oh, they're more likely to commit crime, but people would come back, oh, it's the system and it's poverty and all this stuff. Well, again, like that's a lie too. Number one, poverty does not cause crime. Crime causes poverty. And number two, it's more or less an IQ thing. And another big thing true is it's the bigotry of low expectations that we constantly apologize for this poor behavior, right? So again, like there's so many aspects of this stuff too. It's not even funny, but I guess the main reason why this stuff exists, I believe, is that in many aspects of society, we have told people that it is okay to have different sets of rules for different people. And when you tell people that that's a society that's, one that we want to live in, a good society, well, um, of course this kind of stuff's going to happen, right? So yeah. Um, anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I said, at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.